everybody. Jamie Austin with Real Estate of Mind. Welcome back. And today's show is sponsored by Cross Country Mortgage with a senior loan advisor, Michael Abrams. So you can reach out to him. He's one of my trusted lenders that I've used many times over for a very good reason. And his contact information is up there on the screen. So don't hesitate to reach out if you're looking for a loan. Now, one of my very favorite exciting projects that I wanted to bring on was, I don't know about you, but what I'm hearing is, as a broker, I had to take a course. It was an elective course, but I was chosen to take an elective course on tiny homes. And I was just absolutely fascinated. And partly because we have a shortage of real inventory of homes. People are trying to get creative. They're downsizing and almost micro-sizing, actually. And people are wanting to be able to have mobility with their homes. And it's not a trailer and it's not an RV. What is it? It's a tiny home. And today's guest is Johan Acosta from California. Tiny Home Builders, California.
Yeah,
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Thanks. Well, welcome to the show. We're really glad to have you on here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You bet. So just explain to the viewers, what is a tiny home? What constitutes a tiny home?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of different types of entities that you could describe are a tiny home. So there's prefab, which are prefabricated, so they might be built in a warehouse, either sections of it, walls or the entire structure. Stick build, which are similar to ADUs, additional units.
Yeah.
And then there's some retrofitting done with containers and stuff like that. But honestly, anything that's around I'd say it doesn't have a garage is probably a good way to describe a tiny home.
Right. Yeah. It can't have a garage. And my understanding is that it's got to be square footage 400 square feet or less, or 462 or something around there.
It ranges, yeah, and then also it depends on a state level too.
There you go.
But yeah, I'd say that's a good way to describe it.
What is the size in California?
I don't think California really has a
set size?
A set, square footage. Okay. But there is in order for it to be a short-term rental or to be an additional unit, I think it has to be around 500 square feet.
500 square feet. Yeah. Good to know. Because it's interesting because some tiny homes are put on a concrete block and they have actually separate meters. This is what I do when I was stuck in COVID and stuck in my house. I went down the tiny rabbit hole, the tiny home rabbit hole. I'm telling you, I did. When I say I was fascinated by how people were getting rid of their really big homes, right? Or I say even a 2,000 or 2,500 square foot home, and then going down to actually living in 500 square feet fascinates me. And partly because your carbon footprint is less, you can make it sustainable. Just the way they build them now is greener just naturally, right? Right. Usually right off the bat, your company, are they pretty green just out the get-go, no matter what you choose?
Could you elaborate on
Sure,
green?
green, you use I know some of the insulation was doesn't use formaldehyde.
Okay.
Some of it was already built into not being toxic to the environment.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you look at these, right, most tiny homes are new developments, so they're either built from the ground up or they're built in sections and then delivered to the location that they're going to reside and then built there. So I'd say materials, definitely you're looking at more environmentally friendly and I'd say a better governance from suppliers and vendors that you're working with for each tiny home that you're building. But it's curated towards what the client wants. So they can definitely range. And I mean, there are people that retrofit containers, and then there's people that build a tiny home, quote unquote,
right?
Just a really small or big house. But yeah.
And I've seen some people. So tell me, because you build in the state of California, but you build elsewhere outside of the state, right?
Yeah.
So just let's say I was tiny home curious and I wanted to buy a tiny home, and let's say I wanted something less than 400 square feet or right at 400 square feet, and I didn't want it with wheels. Where would I go to put that home?
I guess it depends. like at least what I've seen, where like working in the industry, is that it really ranges by each county, and each county has their own ordinances.
Yeah. So you'd start there. You'd check your county and go and see what ordinances do they allow you to have. Like, say, I know some people are putting tiny homes in their backyards.
Yeah.
If they have the land, instead of like a she shed or a he shed, then they're putting a tiny home back there and actually using it as an in-law quarter or income producing possibility, like an ADU. Like instead of converting a garage, you actually build a tiny home.
Yeah, I'd say like the best thing to do is either work with like a builder like us that's been in the industry for a while and kind of knows like the permits and ordinances.
So somebody can go to you and you handle all of that for them.
Yeah, we would working
Excellent.
with the client. But if you're just interested like on the internet on your own, you could definitely just, I mean, if that's something that you'd want to do,
Nice.
Go to like the city planning department and then look at some of their like FAQ questions, and usually they kind of lay out what are some things that are indiscretion and things that aren't.
And let me tell you, the city planning department is so sexy. So sexy.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's great. But yeah, I mean, like a new regulation is like in LA, like they just allowed that you can actually park a tiny home on wheels for LA County
Really?
in your driveway.
Wow.
But that's like the most recent new thing. And
That's huge.
yeah, but California, I'd say in general, compared to like Florida or Texas or some other states that we work in, it's definitely a uphill battle working with some of the planning departments. So I'd say like know a builder or someone in the industry that really knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my question, is it easier, I mean, and again, depending, but like say you're not really dealing with a municipality like LA City, you know, like Los Angeles, say you've got vacant land, is you still go to the city planning and check there, or do you think it's like easier, like if I owned a plot of land, I could put anything I want, like I could do 6 tiny homes, a potential budding community there?
Possibly. I guess it really depends on like what the end goal is. Like if you're looking to build it into like an income producing asset, then there's a lot more red tape that you have to go through.
So you'd need permits and stuff if you are going to like rent it out or anything.
Correct. But if it's just like an additional unit or even like I forget the exact word, but there's like a term for an additional unit that isn't an ADU, then you should be okay. It's really not that difficult.
I'm honestly thinking of a commune. Like when I get older, I want like 8 or 9 little tiny homes that nobody has to share a bathroom. Everybody's got their own container. And then we build like a community, like fire pit, pool, garden. I really did spend a lot of time going down the tiny home, the
That
tiny
sounds
household.
nice. Yeah, like beehives, chicken coops, stuff like that. I could see it. Yeah.
I mean, there actually has been, like in Sonoma, California, there has been I don't even think it's a retirement community, but there's a community of tiny homes of about 80 of them. And they just wanted to see if the infrastructure was there, if they had a community center, a garden, a walk path, and it's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's colored. You can't beat the location, right? But you're not paying the Sonoma real estate price, right? You're literally leasing just that little bit of land, and you've got a tiny home on there. So you've like cut your expenses, but you're in one of the most expensive areas to live in California.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a brilliant idea.
No, and I feel like that's kind of why we've just seen like the whole market and the industry just honestly blow up since COVID.
I bet.
I think people, and I mean, I'm a millennial, so people in my age bracket too, they just don't want to be hit with like a 6% mortgage and a 20% down payment on a property that, you know, traditionally we've seen has always appreciated. But I mean, if you look at China's like real estate market, it's not
right,
you know, a for sure thing. So.
And by the way, you, sir, are going to be the largest pool of buyers that this country has seen for the next 25 years. Millennials are going to be the biggest market. And what's interesting is millennials' ideas have changed. It's less about status of like getting a big house with a big mortgage and fancy cars. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I studied. So tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a real world example. They want mobility. They want like more environmentally friendly. They want to be able to pack up and go. They're more interested in experiences than they are just like owning a brick and mortar home.
Yeah, I'd say that sorry.
No, does that ring true for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I feel like most of our clients, like if they're not someone that's looking for an income producing asset, it's just people that really realize like, I can use that capital and money more towards pursuing like the lifestyle or other things in my life that I want.
Yeah.
Instead of just having this big mortgage that you have to pay month to month.
Because also the beauty of it is with the affordability level, and believe me, I know they can get expensive. So
Yeah.
what would you say would be my point is that you could have more than one in different cities all over the country if that's what you wanted, so that you could flip between other places. And with the big resignation that happened during COVID, people realized they didn't have to be stuck to their job, or if they did, they could maybe work remotely, which then opens up a world of opportunity for people to like have their house on wheels. And maybe they want to live in California, for 9 months out of the year, but then maybe they want to go back east in the fall, So it's really opened up a whole world. And I bet you we're going to see, I've already seen an influx of tiny homes, like just increasing, and people being really tiny home curious.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think California is definitely isn't a leader in the market, but we're definitely catching up. And I think we're seeing a lot of growth here in California, and it's promising too in different counties. Like I said, like that ordinance that LA County passed was a really big thing for our industry.
Huge. Yeah. And so who would you say would be leading in the industry? So you said California's catching up. Is there a state that's faster or better at it, or?
Well, one state that because of unfortunate events that's booming right now is just Florida.
Oh,
after
because
the
of the hurricane.
Yeah.
This is a way to get people some stable housing quickly.
Yeah, in a way too, but also it's just I think it's like our turnaround time is a lot like it might take like a month for a prefab home to be completed.
Wow.
And then we have like a 3-month holding period for like logistics and contract work and architecture and the whole shebang.
So like literally somebody could be in a home from like if there was a spot to lease, they could have a home on there within 4 months, basically.
They could have a home. I don't know if it could be on they have to figure out what the city wants.
What the city wants, but it wouldn't be your problem if that was the case. Like you could deliver the home.
Correct.
And if everything lined up with the city and they got their permits and everything, then they would be good to go.
Yeah, and we're working with a couple of bigger builders now. We actually partner with ACH Builders here in California, but one of our bigger builders in Florida, we're working on possibly a contract to build like a tiny home community. Right now, there's only one in Florida, so this would be like the second.
And the other one that I'm fascinated by, because I want to go see the Sonoma one, and then there's also one in Raleigh, is it Ashland? Ashland, North Carolina? Asheville. Yes, Asheville, North Carolina. That's the one. And they have another tiny home. And these are like, they tried them like all over the place. I just think people are going to be asking themselves different questions, what's important to you?
Yeah.
And like whether it's mobility or like, like getting out of town or like downsizing so that you don't have as big a carbon footprint. And also it's just kind of interesting, I think, when you have something that was just as devastating as the hurricane in Florida just recently.
Yeah.
People realized one thing: if they had themselves, they were okay. They had maybe their children or their animals. All of that stuff wasn't as important as having everybody be safe and alive and okay.
Yeah.
And gave like a lot of those communities that, some people would have said, well, some people did say they're not coming back. But then other people are like, this is my home. I don't know anything differently. I don't want anything differently. I will rebuild here. And I think that your company or a company like yours would provide potentially a way to make that happen where it's affordable. Because some of these people, some of their brick and mortar homes got completely destroyed. And it's like, you don't have to do it the same way just because that's the way it's been done, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think another thing too is specifically for us, but other builders as well, is like there's different financing options that are, you could work with like a private lender, a third party lender, or some builders have their own financing. We just started our own financing branch just because we saw the need, and the want from customers. But
that's amazing.
But yeah, I'd say like, so it's not like, you're paying out of pocket for like these big projects. And if it is like something that has a foundation or, some like tangible land value to it, then I mean, yeah, you can get some pretty good financing for a place that you're going to live in, and it's not going to cost as much as a mortgage.
Right. So traditionally speaking, like I know a lot of people, you could get a regular mortgage for 20% down, 10% down, 5% down.
Yeah.
What do you guys require? Like if I wanted to just come in and have you build me a tiny home, I've got the land taken care of. It's not a problem, but I need your financing. What would you tell me I need?
Usually it'd start like probably like 20% down if there's no like collateral that we could take on like a loan, and I can't really speak to. I'd have to get like
you're
my
finance
financing guy. Yeah. I definitely
I'm
don't
not putting
deal
you on
in
the
that.
spot for that. Yeah, but just generally speaking.
Yeah, I'd say
Okay.
vaguely like around there. And then like it would range on like how long that fixed rate would be.
And what is it? I know, because I'm always curious, because of course, depending on like any home, the fixtures, the bells and whistles, what you wanted in there, the build, the how intricate it is. What is like for our viewers? What is like an average range price of a tiny home? And I know it depends on like wood or prefab or whatever. So the materials are definitely going to weigh in. But what would you say would be an average?
Yeah, I'd say one thing that I did want to state that is a misconception is that like retrofitted tiny homes are like a really good deal. So like those container ships.
Yeah.
What I like to tell people is like they were built to be a container ship.
Yeah.
And right when you start cutting to create doors or windows, you're basically degrading the structural integrity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So then you have to add in supports. You have to add in insulation. So it's more of like a showpiece or like a centerpiece. You're looking at probably the same price as if you just did a prefab or a custom stick build or a tiny home on wheels.
Okay.
But I'd say like the wheels range, I mean, they're on the lower end, so maybe like 50,000 to like 75K.
Wow.
Prefab, I'd say like 80. I mean, there's some really nice prefabs
really
out
nice
there
ones.
too.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Like upper 100.
Up to 200. I've even seen one that was at 400, but
Yeah.
it was like so well designed, and the stuff they used in there was like mind blowing.
Yeah.
It was really amazing.
And then I think for stick builds too, like I'd say minimum is probably 100K.
Okay.
And then it'll go up there. But stick build, you're basically getting a custom home at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's just smaller.
Yeah, just smaller.
Exactly. Do you guys have a favorite thing you really like to work? Like, is the prefab where your sweet spot is? What's your sweet spot?
So I'd say our specialty, I mean, like out the door, the thing that, I mean, with like Florida and some of those states, like the tiny home on wheels is simple and easy and fast. But I say where we specialize is definitely on the stick builds, the custom homes, and the prefab.
Wow, nice.
So we're kind of like a mid-level home builder. So it's going to be a place that you would want to, for that size, like you want to live there. So we make it a place that you would actually want to live in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what I love too is what I've seen is like, so for the square footage that you don't have on the inside, people are doing these amazing decks, that you extend your living area out if you've got the space to do that, which it can be like a whole other living area. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen some with container ships, those are kind of like, they're like Legos. You can stack them and build them and, whatever. But I've seen some of the prefabs that I just thought were outstanding. And you can add different textures on the house itself, right? Like shingles. I've seen some with, where it looks very Cape Cod-y, that kind of thing. But they vary so much. But it's amazing. So how long has your company been doing this?
I'd say like our builders have been like working in this industry for like over 5 years, but us as a specific entity, like a couple years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you decide to get into the tiny home business?
So actually like the whole story is my uncle and I I'm from like a tech background.
Okay.
And my uncle and I were both doing like search engine optimization.
Yeah.
And that was like way back before like COVID or anything.
Okay.
And then it kind of led into, after we saw a need and we saw like a lot of customers working with SEO, it moved from like, okay, let's just do small jobs, like finding handyman and painters.
Yeah.
And then moved all the way up to remodeling and then custom homes. And then we just kind of found our niche at the end of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because it couldn't have been at a worse time and at the perfect time to get the entree into the tiny home market. Yeah. Is there, tell me like the most interesting place that you've ever placed a tiny home.
Interesting.
Yeah. Could it be like, did somebody want it on water or something really weird, or somebody had wheels and you were like they moved it all the way out into a weird random desert place where nobody's there, or?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one interesting request was we had a couple customers in Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah, Amarillo. Yeah, I'm from Texas.
Oh, really?
So, darling, it's Amarillo.
Amarillo. Okay.
Yeah. Think armadillo, Amarillo.
Amarillo. Okay. I'll remember that. That's maybe they were upset that I said the city name.
No, well, if they are, they're just not nice. We Texas people are friendly enough to just correct you politely.
Okay, Amarillo. But yeah, they wanted us to rent a piece of land in like the middle of, I guess, the desert for me, but
yeah, it's flat.
A remote area.
Yeah.
And then just set up like a bunch of tiny homes that we had already built as like an investor showpiece.
Oh, interesting.
So it was going to be like an interesting thing, but it was like a really big ask, and it seemed like it was just a really obscure request. So
wow.
Yeah, we're like, do you want like mannequins and stuff inside?
Do you want like fake people having coffee? like yeah, and it's really crazy because I kind of know why that request was probably made. I don't know if you've. It's nothing but land. It's land and sky. There's nothing really there until you get like into the mid Texas and then even down south. But that particular area, which is what we call the Panhandle, it is flat. Yeah. And there's like highway, and then there's like a random store that was like, I think, a Prada store or something really random in the middle of nowhere. And they were like, if you build it, they will come. Sort of like the Field of Dreams. Like, if you build it, they will come. And so if you just put like 5 tiny homes, I bet you we could rent these out because there's nothing in between here and there for 13 hours. And I bet we could make this work. Because I bet sort of the thought process behind it.
Could have been. I mean, I'm not really sure.
But no matter what, you were like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a...
Too random.
Yeah, it was an obscure request. And I think all in all, like... we're a pretty busy company. We have a lot of clientele. And it seemed fun, but just something I didn't want to handle at the time. Yeah.
So county-wise, like, is there a specific county in California that's pretty easy or relaxed about tiny home rules and regulations and permits?
I'd say a lot of, and this is like generally speaking, but a lot of counties that have like a high tourism or a lot of their income deals with tourism or they're like pretty rural, like San Bernardino.
Yeah.
The regulation, like you could have like a metal shed in San Bernardino. You can't use it as like an ADU, but you could live in it. Living quarters. And you could have like an RV parked in your plot of land also. So usually like really rural places.
Okay.
Or places with like a good amount of tourism if you're looking for like a rental property, those are probably better.
I'm shocked about the new ordinance with LA allowing you to park one in the driveway.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like I was like, whoa. Because, for years, I've been doing this a long time. So for years, they almost wouldn't let you even build ADUs.
Yeah.
They had a lot of restrictions on, because most people, yes, maybe they want them for extended family, but most people are really looking for an income possibility, right?
100%,
and some people who even own the bigger home are moving into the ADU in the back and renting out the bigger house because that's a bigger return on investment. That's where they're going to get more money for it. So it's just kind of interesting that they actually allowed that to happen. But we are dealing with a housing crisis. We just don't have enough units to house the people that we need. And I don't know if you saw this. This is kind of a random question, but on my way to, because I have in-laws that live in the desert in Indian Wells, and on the way to there used to be sort of like, I think it's right where the 60 and the 10 freeway meet. There was a huge swath of homeless tents, encampments, right? And I think it went on for probably about half a mile maybe. And then all of a sudden, it was the last trip I made up there. This was very recent. The last trip I made up there, it was gone. And there were these little tiny structures that had 4 walls with a front door. And I wondered if the state didn't experiment with like getting, and believe me, they're not even 200 square feet. Like they're probably about 60 square feet, but enough to put a bed in there and get them off the street.
Yeah.
So I wondered if there's something like that you see coming down, if there's a need, if they're looking at for the homelessness problem in cities. Are people checking you guys out for that, or has anybody approached you about that?
Yeah, I think so. We got a couple of requests for LA County for that exactly.
I bet.
Yeah, I'd say like, yeah, there's definitely like a need and there's like a market there, but us specifically as a builder, just because we make like a higher mid-level
quality, yeah.
some quality, you know, just it wouldn't.
You're like, we're fine doing our custom work. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we want to build sheds, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Which I completely understand. So your roster's pretty full. Is that correct? Like you guys, how far are you out? So you said about 4 months, or what's your?
Oh yeah, so we have like a 3-month like waiting period right now.
Okay,
which isn't too bad if you remember that it takes us about like a month and maybe some change to build like a prefab.
So 3 months isn't bad, especially when you're talking like I have sold actual land before, and I've actually sold land above Sunset Boulevard. Wow. I mean, you know, just to even close a land deal in Los Angeles was bare minimum 180 days. And then the permits with the city, like the price of the land went up if you actually got the permits to build there and you had the right retaining walls there. And then I love it when people say, oh, you know what? I just want to go buy some land in Topanga Canyon and just like build something out. Well, then you get into the Coastal Commission, right? So you can't just put anything up. They have rules and regulations about all that stuff.
Yeah.
So just as simple as you can make it would be absolutely ideal. And then if you had it on wheels, is there a length restriction for the ones that are on wheels?
I would say it really depends on like some city ordinances. They look like a lawyer handbook, and then some it's honestly
whatever.
Kind of the Wild West.
Why? That's what I'm just starting. You took the words out of my mouth. It is still kind of a Wild West industry right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I feel like in the years to come, there'll probably be more regulation and more, I'd say like ordinances specifically towards tiny home. Like it wouldn't be ADU or
right. It would be
accessory
a tiny
dwelling.
Home.
Yeah.
Well, at least when I was renewing my broker's license, that's what the course was about. Like this is not going away.
Yeah.
This is really going to provide a solution for a lot of millennials, a lot of retirees. Because also, if you don't have that many places it's just a compact form of living that really is ideal for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so I think like them, I don't think it's going away. And I think you're going to start to see more and more communities, people either, putting one in their backyard if they've got the land and can get the permit for it.
Yeah.
Like it was interesting, one of my best friends she said she called it a she shed, but it's basically a prefab shed, right? She had to spend $20,000 for the concrete. It took 9 months to get the permit, and she was only putting a prefab shed on there with electricity, not even plumbing. So to me, what my understanding was in the training was that for it to be considered a tiny home, it has to be attached to a separate electric meter and water. So it has to have those two things for it to be considered a home. And if it's not a permanent structure, then it goes into a class of an RV.
Yeah.
Because that stuff, then you just kind of plug in like an RV park, right? Mm-hmm. But for it to be considered like a permanent tiny home, it has to have a gas meter and electric. Now you can do solar panels or whatever, which is what a lot of people are doing. So they're making these really amazing homes, and they lend themselves to the sustainability of like solar panels, recycled water, all that stuff, which I think is going to become more and more important. Are you worried? Is your generation worried about climate change and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am, and I think, I mean, one of the good things about tiny homes is that you still have all the luxury and accommodations that you would in a house, but you're just using a lot less.
A lot less.
Yeah, your water bill, your electrical bill, they're all gonna go down a lot.
If you could say like everything monthly is $60. And that's being probably on the high side, because if you do solar, it's like $2.10 or something, and then water, maybe if you're recycling or you're drawing from a well, could be any of those things, but it's using a compost toilet as opposed to one that uses water,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. It's fascinating. And I'm glad because it's like I'm probably going to be dead by anything that's going to happen by that time. But I do care about, you can see the effects now. It's not like we're waiting with hurricanes, tornadoes. And I'm from Texas where we'd get a good tornado, but not the kind where they descend on the city and there's 7 or 8 of them in the same night. And just like here, when I moved here 25 years ago, you'd hear about there was a fire every year, a fire, maybe fire, but not like 15 that just take over the whole state and the whole air quality, situation. So I think anything that we can do to contribute to, living a simpler lifestyle is not a bad way to go.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like even just our turnkey, like base model tiny homes, like we've seen customers just save on pretty much every single utility that they have. And I think just the shift in mindset kind of brings into, okay, you have less space. Like you have you have to prioritize what you want to keep and what you want around your space.
It's like living on a boat. Same thing. Like you have one closet, that's it. Whatever you need has to fit there.
Yeah. So I think overall, it kind of shifts a person's mindset to just be more resourceful and I guess more intentional with what they're purchasing. And honestly, it almost feels like spiritual when people like tell us that they're going through and purchasing like a tiny home. It's like
I love
it's a big change. It's like a big shift in their life, and
it's a shedding.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But it is. It's kind of like a shedding of extra weight.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a big purger. Not a lot of people are, but I'm a big purger. I like to get rid of stuff because I just feel like it weighs you down.
Yeah.
And when you really make that commitment to live in 500 square feet or less, it's the same thing. Like you need 2 glasses, not 5 sets of, whatever. And you really have to be very purposeful, like you said, about your living.
Yeah.
Johan, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I think we've really gone a wild gamut, but I love, how can people get to your company? Tell them how they can reach you.
Yeah, so I'd say like the easiest, if you're in California, just type in tinyhomebuilderscalifornia.com.
Easy breezy.
Yeah, easy. And then if you're in Florida, it's tinyhomebuildersflorida.com.
Love it.
So yeah, it's pretty simple. We're coming out with social media in probably like the next month or so.
Excellent.
So yeah, look for that. But yeah, the easiest way is definitely our website.
Yeah, because you have, like on the website, which I did look at the website, you guys have some really nice examples of different styles. And they're beautiful.
Yeah.
They're really beautiful. So I think that would be kind of interesting, and you should definitely go check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on today and shedding some light. I'm going to get a lot of use out of the word shedding today, I think, but shedding some light on tiny homes. I think it's going to be an exciting adventure for you guys, and I think you guys are going to do really, really well.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me, and think tiny,
Think tiny. And think big thoughts about tiny homes.
Yeah, big thoughts, tiny.
Well, this is Jamie Austin, and thank you so much. If you want to get in touch with me, Jamie Austin at the City of Angels, you can check us out online at thecityofangels.com. You can also check us out on Instagram at mycityofangels.com, and also OC and Me. We have expanded into Orange County. If you need a professional real estate broker that can help you get into a tiny home potentially, or into a regular home, call us. We're right there for you at 310-806-3199. And again, thank you guys for coming to Real Estate of Mind. We love giving you really great, insightful information about the current real estate market. That's what we're here for. And if there's anything that we haven't covered, reach out. We'll cover it.